Hey artists, in this video we're going to talk about how to use Google Drawings to create an image of a koi fish. We're going to be using some different tools in Google Drawing, including the polyline tool, the curve tool, shapes, and transparent colors. So in your copy of the Google Drawing, there are some reference images of different koi fish with colors and patterns. You want to choose one of these koi fish as your inspiration. So I'm going to use this koi fish that has blue scales with white and red. We're going to use the polyline tool to start off by tracing the big silhouette shape of the entire koi fish's body. This is going to help us with creating our koi fish shape by shape. I like using the polyline tool, but you could also use the curve tool. It helps if you zoom in using the magnifying glass or the trackpad. As I create the arms, I'm going to create the line and then double click to close off the shape so that I can have that clean edge. I'm going to move those shapes out of the way so that I can start focusing on the interior details of the koi fish. I'm still using the polyline tool to trace, and then I'm going to move that shape over. I'm going to show you a trick by using a transparent color. You're going to choose a color and then go into the fill color tool and click on the custom color tool with the plus. When you do this, you're going to get a dialog box where you can edit the fill color with that last option and change the number to 50%. When you do this, it's going to make it so that you can see through the shapes that you've already made and be able to continue tracing. So then I'm going to zoom back in and I'm going to use a different tool than the polyline tool. I'm going to use the polyline tool to trace out the white shape that's on the koi fish's body. I'm going to do this with the polyline tool, and then for the other shapes, I'm going to continue using the polyline tool, and I'll also use the curve tool to do those blue scales on his body. So make sure that you zoom in as you're tracing the shapes that you're going to be outlining. By zooming in, you're more likely to create a whole shape instead of accidentally making a line, which is an often mistake that happens when you're using the polyline tool. Make sure that you trace each section of color using the polyline tool. At this point, I'm not worried about the outline color. I'm just worried about getting those shapes marked in. I can change the outline, color, and detail later. Another thing you can do is crop your image and resize it so that it's larger, so that when you zoom in, you're able to really see all of those details. I'm using the curve tool, which is inside next to the polyline tool, for the scales because they do look a little bit more round, and I want to use that curve to enhance the scale shape. So I move the mouse and click to create each one of these curved details. I'm not worried about layering at this point either, so I'm going to just extend the line right over that fin. Even though the fin is overlapping, at this point I'm not too worried about layering, just worried about getting all of the shapes marked in, so I'm just tracing all of those blue scales. I can always adjust the layer later on and the color. Then I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to add the shapes for the eye. Then I can move the image out of the way now that I've traced all of the shapes. I'm going to zoom in and click on that fin and press Ctrl-Shift up arrow key so that I'm able to bring it back to the top layer. Then I'm going to press Shift and click on the shapes that I would like to be red. And then I'm going to press Shift, zoom in, and click on all of the shapes of the scale that I would like to be that blue value. When I'm going to click on them, they get a blue outline, and then I can use a gradient color to fill them in to help make my koi fish look more detailed. For the body, I'm going to use another gradient, but I'm going to make the colors more closer together. Then I noticed that I was having an issue with the tail, so I went and I created a new shape to outline the tail so that the tip of the tail is white, just like my reference image. Then I'm going to use the same custom gradient that I created for the body. I also used this color blue for the center of the eyes, and I noticed that the arm was on top, so I lowered it down using Control arrow key. I also removed the outline from the entire koi fish. Creating a background, I used a custom gradient to create a pastel water-like vibe. Then I rotated the koi fish and I started to add more gradients, and I moved them to the back with Control-Shift-Arrow key down. Then I was able to duplicate it and create kind of like a splash effect. I wanted it to look like the koi fish was swimming. I also added a transparent color to my design. So changing that last value to about 50% made it so that it looks like the koi fish is popping up from the water. So some of the koi fish will be under the water and some of the koi fish will be under the water. Adding these ripple effects makes it look more like the water is being splashed. While I was working on my composition, I was using those pastel neutral colors, but you could use different colors for your custom gradients. Then I resized my canvas and I made it more square shaped. If you wanted to duplicate the koi fish and make multiple, you could resize your koi fish in your artwork. Add your name with insert word art and that will make it easier to print. I can't wait to see what you create for your koi fish digital art project.